You never expect the knife to come from your own child, especially not in front of 50 people in a chocolate fountain. Just stay in the back, Mom. You're making everything look sad. That's what my son said to me in front of his guests at his own housewarming party. The music was soft jazz, the kind that's supposed to blend into expensive air, light chatter, clinking glasses, the pop of champagne corks. I stood near the patio doors, holding a casserole dish no one had touched. I hadn't brought it to impress anyone. I just thought, well, I thought it might make the new place feel a little more like home, the home he once grew up in, the one I mortgaged my life for. I looked up, confused for a moment, thinking I'd misheard. But no, he was already walking away, adjusting his sleeve, waving down the photographer to retake a group photo. Without me in it. His wife, Caitlin, didn't even bother whispering. She keeps following me around like a stray cat, she muttered to one of her friends. It's honestly exhausting. I didn't react. I just blinked, slowly. Like my body needed a moment to register that this was real, that I was the pity in the room, that I had been asked to hide. The woman I once let cry into my lap when she thought she'd miscarried now winced when I spoke too close to her guests. The son I once spoon-fed through croup now avoided eye contact like I might ruin his social credit score. So I did what any unwanted presence does. I shrank. I moved back toward the trellis by the edge of the yard. There were fairy lights strung above it, warm and blinking, casting a glow on the wine glasses that no one offered me. I stood there like a coat rack no one used anymore. Across the lawn, a banner read, "Welcome home, Aaron and Caitlin," in gold script. Their new 2-story place, big lawn, big deck, bigger mortgage, stood proud behind it. A house they bought 6 months ago. A house they had somehow forgotten still had my name on the deed. I hadn't reminded them. Not yet. From the corner of the yard, their daughter, my granddaughter Emily, saw me. She waved. I smiled and waved back. She was the only one who still saw me like I was somebody. Then Caitlin called out, loud enough for Emily to hear, "Don't bother Grandma right now, sweetie. She gets confused when there's too much going on." Laughter. A couple chuckles. One woman even fake gasped like it was some inside joke. I felt my ears burn. Confused? I've run 3 businesses, paid off 2 mortgages, and raised the man who now flinches when I walk too close to his catering tray. I turned away before anyone could see the tears start to form, but not fall. I didn't cry. Not that night. I've learned better. Instead, I stared at the grass. The edge of my dish towel was still hanging from my purse strap. I hadn't realized I brought it. Out of habit. Out of hope. Like I might be needed in the kitchen. That's when I heard it again. Aaron, behind me, laughing with a guest. God, I love this place. Finally feels like we've cut the cord, you know? Like, I can breathe again. And that was the moment something inside me, something long buried under love and sacrifice, clicked into place. It wasn't rage, not quite. It was something older, colder, quieter, resolve, because if they truly believed I was just an old shadow in their bright new life, then they wouldn't even notice when I disappeared, right? Not from the party, from the papers, from the deed. And once that happened, we'd see who really owned the air they were breathing so freely. You don't wake up one day and become invisible. It happens slowly. At first, they just forget to say thank you. Then they stop asking if you've eaten. And eventually, they speak about you as if you're no longer in the room, even when you're standing right there. But it wasn't always like this. There was a winter some years back, maybe 5, maybe 6. Cold enough that frost stayed on the porch railing past noon. Caitlin had just lost a job, Aaron was still bouncing from startup to startup, and Emily was barely a year old. I remember because I was still working part-time at the local bakery, taking shifts no one else wanted. Early morning, Christmas Eve, even New Year's Day. Kneading dough, packing boxes, wiping counters while my knees ached and fingers cracked from the dry air. They never asked me to help. That's true. But what mother waits for permission? Aaron had come over one night, exhausted and trying to hide it. Caitlin stayed in the car with the baby. He sat at the kitchen table, rubbing the bridge of his nose like he used to do as a boy when he was fighting back tears. "They're going to take the house, Mom," he said. "We're 3 months behind. The bank won't refinance unless we have a cosigner, someone with equity." He didn't have to ask. I already knew. I brought out the tea kettle. Not because tea solves anything, but because I needed to keep my hands busy. I needed to not cry when I said, I'll do it, whatever it takes. That week, I cashed out the last of my retirement CD, penalty fees and all. I handed the check to Aaron, and I signed my name onto the deed of a home I would never live in, simply because it made the process easier for them. Only temporary, they said. Just paperwork. But the months passed, then the years. No one ever brought it up again. Not even when Aaron landed that tech job in Atlanta. Not even when Caitlin launched her online boutique and said it was a dream come true. Not even when they held a garden party and toasted to their hard work paying off. I was standing right there, refilling the lemonade. I suppose they thought I'd forgotten too. But I hadn't. I remembered everything I gave up that winter. I remembered how I sold the last piece of my jewelry, my wedding band, to help cover Emily's medical bills during a hospital stay that insurance didn't fully cover. Caitlin had called it a blessing that I had some savings. She hugged me and cried. I didn't cry back. I just stroked her hair and whispered, "It's nothing, sweetheart. That's what family's for." I told myself that so many times it became a kind of prayer. That's what family's for. Even when I postponed my dental work for the third year in a row. Even when I skipped renewing my license because I couldn't afford both that and Emily's daycare fees. Even when I said no to joining the senior watercolor class because I didn't want to be a burden asking for rides. But perhaps the cruelest part of becoming unnecessary isn't the silence. It's the rewriting of memory. Caitlin once joked to her friend, within earshot, that they'd built everything from scratch. She laughed, sipping wine. We had nothing starting out but our own grit. I was holding a tray of deviled eggs at the time. I don't think she even noticed. And Aaron, he drifted further into his own orbit. Promotions, conferences, dinner parties I wasn't invited to. He said things like, "We'll let you know next time," and "It's more of a work crowd, Mom." But when Emily was born, he had stood beside my hospital bed and whispered, "You're the strongest woman I know, Mom. I want my daughter to grow up just like you." He meant it, I think, back then. Now he just calls when he needs a dog sitter or someone to wait for the plumber. Still, I stayed quiet. I thought, maybe they're just stressed. Maybe they'll see me again once life slows down. But life never slowed down. It sped up, and I faded into the blur. And still, I cooked. I cleaned. I helped organize birthday parties. I stitched buttons. I clipped coupons for diapers. I stood outside in the rain when Emily forgot her umbrella at school. No one saw these things. No one called them sacrifices. They called them habits. They called them just what moms do. I remember one night, not long before the party, Aaron and Caitlin were arguing in the kitchen. They didn't know I was still in the laundry room folding towels. She said, "She's getting too comfortable. This isn't her house." Aaron replied, "Let it go. She won't be around forever." I stopped folding. I stood still, holding one of Emily's unicorn pajamas in my hands. I should have walked in. I should have said something, but I didn't. Because the saddest part is, I believed them. I really did think maybe I had overstayed. Maybe love has a shelf life. Maybe usefulness is a currency, and I had simply run out of value. But now I know better. And soon, so would they. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't comfort. It presses against your ears like cotton, makes your heart pound louder just to fill the emptiness. That's the kind of quiet I sat in the morning after the party. I was still in my clothes from the night before, navy cardigan, sensible flats, the necklace Emily had made me from buttons and twine. I hadn't taken it off. Somehow it felt like the last real thing I had left clinging to me. The house was still. No one called. No one texted. Not even a thank you. I didn't expect one. I went about my day as I always did. Dusted shelves no one visited. Watered plants that bloomed for no one but me. Heated leftover stew and let it cool again without touching it. Then, mid-afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Aaron. He didn't come in. He just stood on the porch holding a folder. Inside was paperwork, bank documents, some kind of refinance package, and a cover letter that mentioned removing a co-signer to streamline future investments. "Hey, Mom," he said casually, as if the night before hadn't happened. "Caitlin and I are making some financial moves, long-term stuff. It's mostly just names on paper. You're still family, of course. But legally, we need everything under us just for simplicity. No big deal. Just sign when you can, okay? I nodded, too stunned to even blink. No, thank you for saving our home. No, we couldn't have done it without you. Just, please go away. But politely this time. He handed me the folder and kissed the top of my head like I was a pet. Then he left. I stood there a long time, the folder in my hand, the words swimming on the cover page like ink in water. That night, I sat in bed with the lamp on and read every line. The language was clean, clinical. My name had become a liability, a bump in their road to more equity, more growth. I was the thing in the way. 2 days later, I stopped by their house unannounced. Not to confront anyone, just to drop off Emily's sweater. She'd left it in my car. I thought maybe this time they'd ask me in. Instead, Caitlin opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks," she said. "We're just about to head out." I glanced inside. There were place settings on the table, wine glasses. Roasted chicken. I could smell rosemary. She hesitated. "It's just close friends. You understand?" And I did. Oh, how I did. As I turned to leave, Emily ran to the door. Grandma, look, I drew you." She shoved a crumpled paper into my hand. Crayons. Stick figures. One of them had curly gray hair and was holding a cake. The words in shaky little kid handwriting read, "My grandma is the best cook in the world." I kissed her forehead. "Thank you, baby. That's the best thing anyone's given me in years." Caitlin gently pulled her back. "Come now, let's let Grandma go." Let her go. They already had. Over the next few weeks, I noticed the change became permanent. Calls turned into texts, then stopped. My birthday passed with a 2-word message, "Happy birthday," no punctuation, no visit. I was still allowed to see Emily, but only if it was convenient. And suddenly, it never was. I became the fallback, the backup, the optional. And the cruelest part? They didn't hate me. They just forgot I was ever necessary. That's worse. That's how you disappear. I started saying no. No to waiting on their dog groomer. No to doing their laundry because the machine's acting up again. No to errands they didn't want to pay someone else for. And they noticed. Not with concern, just annoyance. One Sunday, Aaron called me short and clipped. "You know, you've been kind of distant lately. Caitlin says she feels judged when you're around. I think it's best we all take a little space. Let's just reset." Reset? Like I was a computer. I bit my lip so hard I tasted iron. "Sure," I said. "Let's reset." The next morning, I saw my name trending on their family group chat again. Not with messages to me, but about me. Screenshots from Caitlin, a text I'd sent offering to bring soup. Her response below it, "She's trying to guilt us again. Classic manipulation. I swear she only feels alive when she's being a martyr." I stared at the words until my eyes burned. That night, I stood in the living room and looked around. Framed photos on the mantel. None of me. Gifts I had bought, unacknowledged. A holiday card from 2 years ago, torn at the corner, still magneted to the fridge as if the present wasn't worth displaying. It hit me then. I was already gone in their eyes. But the house wasn't. The name on the deed wasn't. And maybe that was the only thing still anchoring me to them. So I did what they asked. I took my name off before they could. Only I didn't do it the way they wanted. I took it off the house and put it on something else. But we'll get there. For now, I just want you to understand. I didn't reach the end of my rope because they screamed at me. They never needed to raise their voices. They just stopped seeing me altogether. And silence like that? It doesn't echo. It crushes. The thing about being underestimated is it gives you time. Time to think, time to prepare, time to take your name back. Quietly, they thought I'd sign the papers. They thought I'd roll over like always. Sweet, silent, sentimental mom, the old dog who didn't bark. They handed me that folder and smiled like they were doing me a favor. What they didn't know was I'd already been to the courthouse, not to sign, to separate. You see, a few weeks before that humiliating housewarming party, I'd met with a lawyer. A friend of mine, Patrice, had given me the referral. Widowed like me, she'd navigated her son trying to sell her house while she was still living in it. She told me one thing that stuck. If they're not going to see your worth, at least protect what you've built with it. So I did. Turns out, co-owners can remove themselves from a deed, but where their equity goes is a whole other thing. I didn't gift my share back to Aaron. I didn't sign it over like a thank you card. No. I moved my 47% stake, worth every last dollar I'd poured in over the years, into a living trust in my name to be managed and distributed later. And the trustee, Emily, because even though she's young, she remembers, she sees. She still brings me button necklaces and calls me just to talk. And I trust her heart more than I've trusted any adult in that household for a long time. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I let them plan. They wanted to sell the house, to flip it, reinvest in Caitlin's online boutique, and maybe take a little family vacation to Tuscany, according to their newest vision board. I listened to Aaron pitch the idea to the extended family at Emily's birthday dinner. They didn't know I was standing at the far end of the patio, arranging cupcakes. It's time to let go of the old, he said, raising his wine glass. We're trying to simplify everything, cut the clutter, streamline. We're working with a realtor now. Should go fast. Caitlin leaned in, laughing. Honestly, it feels like we're finally making grown-up moves. A few people clapped. I didn't, but I smiled, because I'd already scheduled the final confirmation with the county. The deed was officially revised, and so was the trust. Emily's name, in sealed paperwork, stood right beside mine. They didn't notice. Not even when the legal notice came to their mailbox, addressed to the co-trustees of the Winters family property holding, established by Margaret E. Winters. Aaron opened it and thought it was junk. I know because he left it on the table. I saw it, untouched, the day I was over to babysit the dog. Again. Then came the dinner. The one Caitlin insisted be formal. A celebration of transition, she called it, hosted in the backyard, catered, with string lights and printed menus. Guests included a potential buyer, her business partner, and Aaron's boss. They had no idea I was coming. Emily invited me. She sent me a hand-drawn invitation. Come see me blow out my candles. You're my wish. I showed up with a gift wrapped in gold foil. No one greeted me. Caitlin's jaw clenched the moment she saw me. Oh, you came, she said, as if I'd missed some invisible dress code. We weren't sure you got the Avit. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I walked in, placed the gift on the table, and took a seat near the back. Then the speeches started. Aaron tapped his wine glass. We're thrilled to share that we've accepted an offer on the house. Big things ahead, streamlining, like we said, growth, evolution. He paused for applause. Caitlin stepped up, glowing in her cream silk dress. We're so grateful for how far we've come. This house has been a blessing, but it's time for a new chapter, and soon it'll officially be ours to write. That was my cue. I stood, not quickly, not dramatically, just with purpose. The sound of my chair sliding back was loud in the hush. I'm sorry, I said calmly, but that's not entirely true. All heads turned. Aaron blinked. Mom? I walked forward, gift still in hand, then gently placed it in front of Emily, who was sitting by the cake. She looked up, eyes wide, sensing something was about to happen. Then I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. The deed has already changed hands, I said. Weeks ago. Caitlin narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? I looked her dead in the face. I took my name off the deed, just like you asked. Aaron exhaled in relief. Oh, good. I was going to follow up on that. Thanks, Mom. I didn't flinch. I didn't give my share to you, Aaron. His brow furrowed. Then, what? I transferred my stake into a living trust, managed by me, with Emily listed as beneficiary. The air snapped, like a power line cut mid-current. No, Caitlin said, stepping forward. That's not valid. That's not possible. It's legal, I said, holding up a second envelope. And notarized. Aaron's voice dropped. You blindsided us. No, I said softly. You tried to erase me. I just moved before you could finish the job. There were whispers now, confused guests, murmurs from Aaron's boss, a few sideways glances between Caitlin and her partner. Caitlin reached for the envelope, but I pulled it back. This copy's for Emily. She can read it when she's older. For now, just know this. Whatever happens next, this house isn't yours to sell. Not without the consent of its co-trustee. Then I knelt beside Emily. She leaned in and whispered, "What does it mean, Grandma?" "It means," I said, kissing her forehead, "that your cake is safe, and so am I." Then I stood, straightened my jacket, and walked away. I didn't need to hear what came next. I knew the silence behind me was louder than any scream, and for once, I didn't feel like I was fading into the background. I was the one who just rewrote the ending. I didn't go back to the party after I left. I didn't need to. The moment had landed like a hammer striking glass. Quiet at first, but the cracks were already spreading. The very next morning, Caitlin called. Not to apologize, not even to ask what happened. "Hi, so we're confused. The trust thing. You're serious? You can't just do that without talking to us." I was sitting in my little kitchen, tea steeping beside me, birds chirping out the open window like nothing had changed. And in some ways nothing had, except me. "I can," I said gently, and I did. There was a beat of silence on the line, then that polished tone she always used when trying to sound civil while boiling inside. "We have a buyer," she said. "They've already made an offer. We're in escrow." "No, Caitlin," I said. "You're not." And with that, I hung up. I let the lawyers do the rest. The following week, Aaron showed up at my doorstep. Not yelling, not even angry really, just tired. Tired in that way people get when they realize the person they thought they'd always have in their pocket suddenly found the zipper and got out. "Mom," he said, rubbing his temples, "you really blindsided us." I looked at my son, the same boy who once sat on my lap during thunderstorms and asked if I'd protect him from lightning. Now he needed protection from his own actions. "You told people that house was yours," I said. "You toasted to it. You planned your next life on a lie." "It was a misunderstanding." "It was a pattern," I interrupted, "and I broke it." He swallowed hard, like he didn't have the words. Or maybe he finally did, and didn't like how they sounded out loud. "But you put Emily on it?" he said, almost incredulous. "She's just a child." I smiled. "Exactly. And maybe if you remembered how to care for someone without conditions, you'd understand why." The sale fell through, of course. And so did Caitlin's expansion plan for her boutique. She'd already borrowed against the idea of liquidating the house. That bridge collapsed under her stilettos before she could even finish her second collection. Worse still, Aaron's boss, who had been at that dinner, caught wind of the drama. The same drama Aaron had once proudly kept at arm's length. Now it was center stage. Reputation matters in his field. People want stability, emotional maturity, integrity. None of which includes cutting your mother out of a deed while using her credit to buy the place in the first place. His next promotion quietly disappeared. Their social circle grew smaller. People stopped inviting them to things, not out of malice, just discomfort. No one likes standing next to a house fire, even if it's metaphorical. And Emily? She came to visit the weekend after everything unraveled. Caitlin dropped her off without saying more than a stiff nod. Emily ran inside with her little backpack, holding a folded-up paper in her hand. It was a drawing. Our house, not theirs. Ours. She'd drawn me in the garden wearing my straw hat and herself on the swing out back. In big crayon letters, she'd written, "This is the safe house." I hung it on my fridge that night and stood staring at it long after she fell asleep on the couch beside me. She didn't understand all the details, but she felt the truth. Kids always do. 2 Sundays later, Aaron came again. Alone this time. He stood at my door longer before knocking. When I answered, he looked smaller. Not physically, but in spirit. Like the wind had gone out of a balloon that had been stretched too far for too long. "I want to make it right," he said. "I don't know how, but I want to try." I nodded slowly. "That's a good start." Then I stepped aside and let him in. Not into my trust, not into my finances, but into my living room. Into a conversation, into a place where finally he'd have to earn what he once assumed was forever guaranteed. He sat on the edge of the couch like a man entering a confession booth. "I didn't know you were hurting that much," he said. "I just thought, I don't know, that you were used to being there, that you didn't mind." I didn't say anything right away, because part of me wanted to scream, and another part remembered what it felt like to be invisible. And neither of those would move us forward, so I said the truth. I didn't mind helping, I minded being erased. He nodded, slowly, fully, and that, for the first time in a very long time, was enough. I didn't lift the trust. I didn't reverse the deed. That's not how this works. But I did let him come back for dinner the following week. He helped with dishes. He stayed after Emily fell asleep. He didn't check his phone once. Caitlin didn't come. And honestly, that was a relief. Some lessons don't need to be taught twice. Some doors close and should stay closed. As for the house, it stayed put. Emily now waters the garden with me every other Saturday. She likes tulips. She says they look like they're listening, and maybe they are. Because now, finally, someone is. The house is quiet now, but it no longer feels hollow. It's different, peaceful even. The mornings are mine again. I wake when the light slips through the curtains, not when someone needs something. I make coffee the way I like it, black, strong, in the chipped blue mug Emily gave me 2 birthdays ago, the one that says, "You're my home." I tend to the garden just after sunrise. The air is cool, and the soil still holds the memory of dew. Emily and I planted tulips in rows, white, lavender, and the deep red ones she says look like lipstick. She calls every Saturday before coming over. She always asks, "Can I come water my flowers?" She's the only one who calls just to ask that. She doesn't care about the trust, or the title, or what's been said in whispers. She just shows up, with her backpack and a lopsided sandwich she made, all by herself. And I welcome her, every single time, like the best part of my week. Because she is. Aaron still visits. Not often, not yet with ease. But he comes. He no longer talks in bullet points or asks for favors hidden inside compliments. Now he listens more than he speaks. He helps stack firewood. He asks how I'm sleeping. He's trying, clumsily, imperfectly, but genuinely. Sometimes I catch him staring at old photos on the hallway wall. Ones with him and his dad. Ones with me, younger, holding a toddler in overalls. There's a pause in him now, a reckoning. He hasn't said the words yet, but I see it in his silence. I remember who you were. I remember who you are. Caitlin hasn't come back, and I've stopped leaving space for her. Some relationships don't recover, not because of anger, but because of clarity. I wish her peace. I wish her growth. But I don't wish her back. Sometimes, protecting your peace means drawing a line, even if it cuts through your own blood. I've started doing things again, small things I used to only dream of. I joined a community baking circle, not for income, just for the joy of it. Every Thursday, we gather in a church kitchen with aprons and stories and too much cinnamon. I teach the kids at the local library on Tuesday afternoons, mostly reading, sometimes life. Last week, a boy asked me why grown-ups cry. I told him, sometimes it's because they finally feel safe enough to, and he nodded like he understood something I didn't think he would. Maybe he did. To those watching, maybe none of this looks like revenge. There's no lawsuit, no screaming match, no dramatic exit set to background music. But sometimes the deepest justice is quiet. It's reclaiming your space. It's refusing to shrink. It's standing in your own home again and saying, "This is mine," not just in name, in spirit. If you're someone who's ever been pushed aside, overlooked, or told, subtly or not, that your time is done, I want you to hear me when I say, you are not useless. You are not expired. You are not invisible. Sometimes the people you raised will grow up and forget your sacrifices. Sometimes the ones you fed will call you a burden. And sometimes you'll have to choose yourself even when it hurts. But choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's sacred. And if they call it betrayal, let them. Because healing too makes a sound. It just doesn't ask for permission. If this story found you at the right time, if you've ever had to step away to reclaim who you are, leave a comment. Tell us what freedom looks like for you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Quietly or boldly. However you choose, just don't let them feel alone. And if this space feels like home to you, you're welcome to stay. We're always here. And we see you. Every part of you.